DJI have released a brand new drone. It's the Mavic Pro 4. And to cut right to the chase, this is one of the best drones that I have ever used. Everything from the image quality, the actual footage that you can capture, the way it flies, the way it handles, the way you actually set it up as well, makes your life incredibly easy, right through to the workflow of using this drone. Everything feels not only upgraded over previous models, but just top notch as a professional drone that you might use for covering events, covering weddings, maybe short films or commercial projects. It feels like probably one of the best drones that you can get for any of that kind of stuff without spending an enormous amount of money. There is a lot to be excited about with this drone, whether you are looking for your first proper, professional drone or whether you're upgrading. Everything in this drone feels significantly upgraded from previous models. And it is really, really cool to see so much work go into improving what I thought was already a really impressive series of drones. The Mavic Pro 4 just feels like a completely next level when it comes to drones. There's a few reasons for that. Things like the infinity gimbal on the front. The second you take this out of the box, you see this, 3 lenses on the front there, and the actual rotation of this, immediately it's very apparent this is quite different to previous drones. The image quality you can get from that is fantastic. We'll obviously go into that in a little bit. But even once you start setting it up and actually begin flying, it just makes your life so easy with the way you can capture things. So we're gonna break this down into a few different kind of sections. Image quality, right? What you can get from this with regards to photos and video, the way it handles, the way it flies, so things like flight time, battery, all that kind of stuff, which is really important, the kind of workflow side of it as well, and what are the kind of big upgrades. Let's start there because the infinity gimbal on the front is probably the most immediately noticeable thing when you get this drone or when you see this drone for the first time, right? And that is one of the massive upgrades here. So essentially what DJI are calling this infinity gimbal is a new gimbal on the front of the drone, which houses the different lenses. So it enables full 360-degree roll axis rotation, which means that there are a lot of things that you can do with this much easier than with previous drones. For example, straight away, you'll notice that you can actually tilt the camera up as well as down, but quite significantly. So if you wanted to point towards the sky, if you wanted to have the drone a little bit lower and shoot up through kind of a building or get the scale of a mountain or something like that, it's going to be incredibly useful for that kind of thing. It also allows you very easily to change the rotation of the camera and shoot with vertical orientation, which these days is incredibly useful to be able to do that in the drone with basically full quality, right? You're not having to crop later. Of course, you can do that if you want to, but if you want to shoot vertically, it's a lot easier now with the infinity gimbal on the front of this. It just allows you significantly more camera movement options as well, and just gives you these different interesting ways to shoot your footage. And with that in mind, there are new quick shot modes as well to allow you to kind of take full advantage of the different rotation options to get some really interesting shots out of your drone. It's one of those things that, obviously makes a difference, but it's when you're actually flying and you're able to move the camera much more freely and with more purpose to what you're doing, you really notice the difference over previous models. It's incredibly intuitive and organic the way that it feels to actually use it and control it. And actually going backwards feels much more of a step down once you've used this particular gimbal on the front of this. Now, you've got 3 lenses housed within the gimbal, right? You've got a 28mm Hasselblad wide-angle lens, you've got a 70mm lens, and you've got a 168mm tele lens on there as well. This makes it so useful to get different kinds of shots. Everything from, of course, landscape stuff, adventure-y kind of things, but even through to portraiture, which is something that I have never thought about ever with a drone, is possible with this. That is crazy to me, right? You're getting some unbelievably beautiful image quality. And actually, with the sensors in here, you're able to get up to 100 megapixels. Now, you've got a couple of different options for how you want to shoot. But if you do choose to shoot with 100 megapixels, it'll actually just take the image and just actually, I think it must be using upscaling, but it looks incredible, and the amount of detail you've got there is just mind-blowing. It looks so fantastic, and that's available in JPEG and in RAW as well. And actually, you've got a sensor which is pretty much rivaling a Micro Four Thirds sensor, which means that image quality is, for a drone, almost unbelievable. I mean, even just on the controller, right? While I'm actually flying this thing, I'm thinking about the sharpness. It is crazy. It looks so, so good. And of course, once you get the footage back and you load it up properly, oh, it looks fantastic. So that means with regards to photos, you're able to get some incredibly stunning results with very high levels of detail, some great low light performance in here as well, which is really, really nice to see. And if you shoot in D-Log, you can get up to 16 stops of dynamic range, which is a lot. That's a really, really useful way to be able to capture some slightly higher contrast scenes. And in terms of the video side of things, you can shoot all the way up to 4K 60 frames a second, right? Which gives you a lot of options for how you want to use that footage later. You could crop a little bit, you can slow that down as well if you want to. But I've got to say, it's very, very stabilized. I sometimes think about needing to stabilize footage in post, but this drone, because I think it's it's a little bit heavier, right? It makes it easier for this to be very stable in the air, and you get some really, really steady footage. And actually, I found myself using this actually very high up and just hovering, because I was able to almost use it. It's so steady. I was able to get some great kind of panning shots without actually moving the drone. And of course, moving it as well is nice and steady, which is great. It's all stabilized really well. But if you did want to slow that down and stabilize it, you can still have that in 4K and have some really nice looking footage. D-Log is in 10 bits. You've also got D-Log M and HLG all supported in the actual drone itself, which is great. And it's unbelievable how this is able to genuinely rival imaging performance of Micro Four Thirds cameras. It feels like having a Micro Four Thirds camera up in the sky, fully stabilized, which is amazing. And a significant upgrade over the 20 megapixel sensor that we saw with the Mavic Pro 3. Now combine that with massive upgrades in the way this actually controls as well, and you are having the best time using this drone. So for example, you've got reduced drag here, it's a bit more aerodynamic, but for me, the big thing here is the much better battery life that you're getting here. So DJI say up to about 51 minutes of forward flying in perfect conditions, or about 45 minutes of hovering. Now, perfect conditions are always going to be difficult to come across, but it is incredibly immediately noticeable how long this is going to last. I was able to fly this for so long without having any problems. And I'm moving around, I'm going all over the place. It is so good to not have to worry about needing to bring it back 15 minutes after you've taken off, right? You can get loads of different stuff. And actually, if you take this out with 3 batteries, you are going to be able to get a lot without having to worry about charging. The actual way that it sets up and the way that you start flying is also incredibly intuitive. Now, this is not particularly new for DJI, right? DJI drones are very, very easy to just get started with if you've never flown a drone before. But I really liked things like the little tutorial, the little flying tutorial, which just teaches you how to get the basics of moving it around, a little bit of camera movement in there, and then you're kind of good to go. And that means that if you are new to drones and you've gone in for a pro drone like this, you're going to instantly be able to get some great stuff. Combine that with being able to use the quick shot modes, which just allow the drone to do lots of things for you. And you've got a lot of great ways to capture things using this immediately, day one of having it. You don't have to worry about learning loads of stuff. I also enjoyed the touchscreen actually on the controller, right? Which is super easy to use. I love that it's got the screen built in, which, on the cheap drones, you don't always see. You're normally using your phone, but this is fantastic. The screen is also really bright, right? Nice sunny day, lovely bright screen, and everything again on here, very intuitive to actually use. And the screen itself being a touchscreen means that it's very easy to change different things as you're going. The settings of the kind of video stuff that you're getting, or the photo stuff, anything like that. And of course, stuff you'd come to expect with DJI, like return to home functionality, takeoff, landing, all that kind of stuff. Now, of course, obstacle avoidance is a big part of drones like this, and it feels really quite special with this drone, right? It just was avoiding things with absolutely no problem. It would sometimes go off when, as far as I was concerned, there was nothing around the drone. I don't mind that, if I'm honest with you. I really, really don't want to crash my drone. But in terms of letting me know that the ground is a little bit close, that it's a little bit close to the water, that it's a little bit close to things to the right, to the left, and actually avoiding that stuff, it just wouldn't let me fly fly into it, which is ideal. Right now, there are ways that, maybe you would do that differently. If you put it into sport mode, actually on the controller, it's going to turn a lot of that stuff off, because now the idea is that you're just flying this fast and you're fully in control and you accept some sort of responsibility for that, I suppose. But with the obstacle avoidance on, again, you're just not really going to have to worry so much about crashing the drone. It's probably not going to happen. In terms of workflow as well, the range here is fantastic. DJI estimate somewhere between 6 to 15 kilometers in suburban areas and 1.5 to 6 kilometers in cities. Of course, a lot of this stuff is going to be dependent on where you are allowed to fly the drone, which is a really important consideration. But, it's pretty obvious that this works very flawlessly. I mean, I had no issues at all. And, I was flying it around. Obviously, you want to keep it within visual range. But, you're able to get some really, really good stuff. Actually, I will say this as well, because the drone's a little bit bigger. Recently with drones, I've flown a lot of smaller ones. But because this one's a little bit bigger, I was really able to keep an eye on it in the sky a lot easier, which is something actually that I probably took for granted, but it was really useful to be able to see it. I will say this as well. The noise of it was surprisingly not that loud, which is important again if you are using this at maybe a wedding or an event where you don't want to be too intrusive. It all just goes into making this a very, very professional level drone that is not only making your life easier, but just making the workflow and the experience of having this at an event or something like that, everything is better. Now, speaking of workflow, there's pretty good internal storage in this as well, which I found very useful because it turned out my micro SD card, which is very old, was not really doing the job. So there's 64 gigabytes of internal storage, which is great, and that is going to really help you out, especially if you're in a pinch like I was. And if you go up to the creator combo version of this, that actually features a 512 gigabyte SSD. So you've got a lot of room there for internal storage, which I think is a great way to actually be able to use this. And of course, you can use a micro SD card if you want to as well. You've also got things like direct USB-C cable transfer and Wi-Fi 6 quick transfer. So actually getting stuff off the drone, super, super easy. I'll be honest with you, this is a huge upgrade in pretty much every single way that it can be an upgrade, from the image quality, the stuff you're getting, the actual lenses, everything looks fantastic. The flight time, the actual design of the drone, right through to that workflow stuff with the internal storage. Everything about this is just, look, it's one of the best drones I've ever used in my entire life. And like I said earlier in the video, if you're coming from one of the previous models, this is a very worthy upgrade. Absolutely. And if this is your first drone, oh my goodness. This is a very lovely drone to get as your first drone. You are going to be able to capture some fantastic results. The 3 lenses are amazing, and actually I found myself using each one more than I thought I would. I thought I would probably default more to the wide angle, which I did a lot of the time, but those other 2 lenses are great and a lovely and different way of shooting. Having all those options, fantastic. And for me, things like the infinity gimbal, huge upgrade, and that battery life is massive. And I love that. You can check out the new Mavic Pro 4, as well as the different bundles it comes with, by checking out the link down in the description. That'll take you to parkcameras.com, where you can see all of that fun stuff, all of the spec as well, because there's loads of stuff we haven't even covered, because there's so much to talk about with this drone. We've also got a blog, which you can go and check out as well. There'll be a link down there to check out all of that stuff. Otherwise, don't forget to like and subscribe. So there's new content all the time. I will see you in the next video. But until then, as always, thanks for watching.